Mars, our planet of action, enters the dreamy and imaginative Pisces on Friday, March 22nd, encouraging us to embrace melancholy, to follow spiritual ideals, to write poetry, and to take it slow as it comes together with Saturn. Mars will stay here until April 30th, and I'm here to tell you more and to break it down for all 12 signs. My name is Anastasia. I'm a traditional Western astrologer specializing in natal, relationship, and predictive readings. If you like my work, please take a second to show me your love and support by leaving a like or a comment, subscribing, and pressing the notification bell. It encourages YouTube algorithm to be a friend, not a foe, to show my content to more people, helps me grow. You also have the option of saying thank you by buying me a coffee or a tea or chicken soup. I really appreciate that. Before we dive in, if you want to know what the eclipse season has in store for you, if you want to understand your chart, if you want to understand yourself better, book a reading with me at anastasiadoesastrology.com. Now is a really good time because eclipse season energy tends to be a little bit more unpredictable, a little bit more shaky and chaotic. If you want some planetary magic help, as you know, I carefully work with astrology and select the best times to capture important transits and bring them into the shape of candles and oils. This is my newest creation. It's Venus in Pisces, captured on March 13th, with Venus right on the ascendant in Pisces with the moon in Taurus. Really beautiful for love, harmony, peace, creativity. Venus is exalted in Pisces, meaning she's empowered. Her strength is boosted, right? So she has even more ability to make us feel more romantic, to make us feel more sensual, to make us feel more loved. So this is the candle for anyone looking to create a mood, to connect with someone, to manifest a new partner in your life. Definitely check out my website for this. And I highly recommend it as a remediation tool for anyone born with their natal Venus in the sign of fall or detriment, which would be Virgo, Aries, and Scorpio. If your natal Venus is in the 12th, 8th, or 6th houses, which are dark houses, the energy of confidence and love and security is a bit harder to find in those darker places. And if your natal Venus is conjunct Saturn, square opposite Saturn, square opposite Mars, Pluto, Uranus, because then there is a little bit more unpredictability in your love life. Additionally, on my website, you can find other candles and other creations like my 2024 Astrology Planner. It is currently discounted and it contains 225 pages filled with insights, journaling prompts, lunar guides, lunar phases, new moons, full moons, all of the information you need to make your life easier, more flowing, better in general. I even included big dates, good dates for love, good dates for business, as well as more challenging dates. Okay, let's talk about Mars in Pisces. In general, Mars is the planet of action. Mars is the planet that is all about initiative. It's independent, it's aggressive, it's conflict oriented. It's very much about separating ourselves and standing apart and reaching our goals. Whenever Mars is placed in the sign other than its own, which is Aries and Scorpio, Mars has to behave in accordance to the nature of that sign. Pisces is a Jupiter-ruled sign. It's a yin. Jupiter always wants to find coherence. Jupiter wants to find bigger meaning. When it's a yin sign, it's not going to go out there to find coherence like Sagittarius does by going on adventures, by traveling, by teaching, learning. It will be a little bit more introspective. It will be more about going to a mountain, meditating, sitting down to write in your journal, right? So you put Mars, the fighter, in the sign of yin, Jupiter in the sign of Pisces, and you end up getting a fighter who writes poetry, a fighter who is meant to touch hearts. So we're getting this Mars for a while, right? We get it between March 22nd and April 30th, and the entire time Mercury will be retrograde in Aries, the sign ruled by Mars. Mars will be in Pisces. So some of the things we will be rethinking may have to do with the spiritual side of our life, whether there is enough satisfaction, whether there is enough alignment, attunement, whether we're paying attention to the outside world, to the birds song to the cry of the wolves at night, right? Like it might be just, I think in general, we become a lot more poetic during this period. We care less about traditional goals, things like making the most money. We care more about making a difference. We care more about being heard, being sort of, recognized for our emotions, for our values, for our spirituality. So I think if Mars has to do with sexuality, sexually, you might notice that you are more drawn to people who can teach you things, people who feel like part of your soul family, right? So kind of being attracted to people like that. We don't want confrontations. You may notice that you're less interested in confrontation. You may become more evasive, right? Venus is still in Pisces until April 5th. Mars is now in Pisces. So trying to swim away from confrontation, energy going up and down is more likely. Being more idealistic, being more dreamy, being more creative is very much a sign of this placement. A lot of compassion, a lot of care. What is this challenging for? It could be challenging for following up with those traditional goals and reaching sort of traditional goals. It could be challenging for opening yourself up to people who are not worthy of your attention and your energy, people who are like charlatans, people who can take advantage of you. So just beware of being too open, too generous, too kind of receptive to the energy of other people. Really good for creative time, for creative exploration, creative expression, writing, acting, journaling, doing yoga, doing spiritual things. Basically, anything you go after has to have some kind of meaning, some kind of purpose, some kind of higher energy behind it. Like I said, you're not that interested in just going after things because they pay your bills. It doesn't hurt, but ideally there has to be something else. So some of the important dates here, one thing that is important is that pretty much immediately when Mars enters Pisces, it is co-present with Saturn. Saturn is in the second third of Pisces right now, so Mars and Saturn are hanging out together. And both are considered malefics in the traditional astrology, so both have a bit of like sometimes negative connotations because Mars is connected to severing, cutting, separating, and Saturn is connected to delays, slowdowns, boundaries, and walls that are sometimes hard to overcome. So you put the two together, and then on the 10th, they conjoin. You can give it like 5 days before, 5 days after, between April 5th. Venus will be gone. She'll be in Aries at this point, the sign of her detriment. So it might be a bit difficult, right? Between April 5th, April 15th, but not difficult because life is just terrible, but difficult because you're learning some harsher lessons. So between 5th and 15th of April, Mars and Saturn together represent delays. They represent slowdowns. They represent roadblocks. So if you have been feeling in March that you have started moving, you have done a bunch of things, just be ready that April doesn't have the same energy. And this makes a lot of sense because Mercury will also be retrograde, and Mercury will be ruled by Mars conjoining Saturn right in the middle of the retrograde, right? So there's a lot of frustration that comes out of that need to slow down, especially for those of us that do not want to slow down. So beware of this challenging energy affecting the rest of your life. Beware of like just being angry at something not going your way and then you snap at your significant other or your parent or your sibling. Just beware of that. Watch out for issues surrounding water. We are in a Pisces, like Pisces is a water sign, so there might be pipes, clinking. I guess this is not a big deal if it's just clinking, but like pipes bursting. There may be some like shipping delays if you're waiting for something to ship across the ocean or coming from the ocean. On a collective level, we may see more involvement and more news involving the Navy, the sea, the oceans, anything like that, and maybe some type of slowdown when it comes to those matters. On April 19th, Mars will sextile Jupiter. This is quite positive, so I think that could be the time when we're starting to see the light, when we're starting to feel like things are, we took a break, we sat down, we meditated, we paused. Now there are some answers, some light, some optimism, and good luck. And then on the 29th of April, Mars will conjoin Neptune, which is suggestive of some kind of new dreams, new ideals, inspiration. Mercury will be done with its retrograde on the 25th of April. So I wonder if you are literally like, let's say you're working on something right now and you're excited and you're moving and things are going, and then something happens in April where you have to slow down, you have to rethink, you have to go over the work that you've done. And in the process, you realize that the project is missing something, right? The project is missing some spark, some glamour, some spirituality. Just a sec. And so you get this opportunity to reinvent, to rethink, to come up with a brand new way of doing things. Can't hurt, right? But I think in the moment there could be that tension, inner or outer, where things are not going your way. And maybe they're not meant to go your way. Maybe your way is not the right way. Maybe it's better if you stay open and listen to what the universe is trying to tell you. This is a message from your friendly neighborhood astrologer, YouTube neighbor. So let's take a look at the 12 rising signs and just examine what this might be for you, what kind of slowdowns, delays, restrictions you may be facing, what kind of lessons you may be learning. I recommend listening for your rising sign. Rising sign is the starting point of the chart. It determines where the rest of the transits fall in. So those horoscopes tend to be most accurate, but if you resonate with your moon horoscope or your sun horoscope, by all means, give those priority. If you are an Aries rising, Mars is entering your 12th house and will stay here between March 22nd and April 30th. And this is important because Mercury is retrograding between the 1st and 25th of April in your first house, right? So you are asking big questions. You're asking questions about your appearance, your health, your identity, a lot of sort of introspective, deep questions of who am I? And the planet that Mercury is referring to is Mars in the 12th house. So Mars in the 12th house could be your opportunity to slow down. It could be the time when you're cleansing, when you are releasing a lot, because 12th house deals with self-defeating tendencies. It deals with wastes of energy, the times when you say yes to things, but you actually want to say no. The times you overindulge. Maybe you drink a little bit too much. Maybe you smoke a little bit too much. Maybe you don't eat healthy. Maybe you don't go to bed on time. So a lot of, I think, like inner reorganization is happening for you with this Mars in the 12th house. There's also more of a desire to retreat, to spend some time alone, to maybe be more introspective, right? It's interesting because like this is also Aries season and there's a lot of action. The sun is in your first house, but there's also eclipses. So I think you are balancing seemingly opposite energies of wanting to spend some time in solitude, but also wanting to be social. But I don't think those two are contradictory. I think the invitation here is to find balance between the two and to honor yourself and to honor your need for rest, your need for peace. And in the process, when you're by yourself, you might discover something. Mars in the 12th house could also be really great for spiritual pursuits. Start by volunteering, giving your time and energy to people who might use it. You may meet someone who inspires you. It could also be a great time to exercise, to do imaginative, creative, spiritual projects that maybe you prefer working alone on. Your dreams might be especially colorful right now, and you may notice that your sleep is not as sorry. your sleep is not as consistent as you would like. Maybe there's some dreams that are coming in that are a little bit more dramatic. You wake up more often. Or because it's Mars and Pisces, it may also be a sign that you need to sleep more and you kind of want to sleep more. You crave sleep. I spilled some water, so I'm going to fix it. So let me know how this resonates. And if you ever want to know what's ahead for you, you have important questions, book a reading with me at anastasiadoesastrology.com. Next, we have Taurus rising. If you are a Taurus rising, Mars is entering your 11th house. Mars will rule Mercury retrograde in your 12th house. So it's an interesting connection because Mercury will be retrograde between the 1st and the 25th of April, and you are asking important questions about your mental health. You're asking important questions about your self-defeating tendencies. You're maybe rethinking your inner peace and trying to figure out what truly makes you happy, what gets you, what is like a source of spiritual satisfaction for yourself. You're maybe dealing with something in private with this Mercury retrograde in your 12th house. But with Mars being in the 11th, I think a lot of your attention goes towards your friendships and networks, whatever is happening internally, right? Like you are also with Mars in the 11th house, you're getting an opportunity to figure out who is in your corner, who is truly supportive of you. You are maybe going through your friendships, maybe you're letting go of some connections, maybe you're actually making some connections, right? Maybe you are just feeling more proactive to connect with people who are as spiritually minded as you are, as interested in yoga, as interested in astrology. Mars in the 11th can create some conflicts with friends, but it can also be the fuel you need to find those connections, to pursue new projects, to take action, right? So even if things feel a little bit slow because Mars will come together with Saturn and you are having to deal with roadblocks, having to deal with delays, and maybe your dreams seem a little bit further away, just recommit to them and be very thoughtful with who you trust and who you're letting in. You know, it's not a bad time to reach out to people and to connect with people and to ask them for advice, ask them for guidance. Just don't overload yourself, because I think Aries energy is very private versus Pisces energy is very outgoing right now in your 11th house. So you gotta balance the two. Let me know how this resonates, and if you want to know more, book a reading with me at my website, anastasiadoesastrology.com. If you are a Gemini rising, Mars is entering your 10th house. And this Mars will be the ruler of the upcoming Mercury retrograde in your 11th house. So a lot of focus on your dreams, on your goals, on your friendships and networks, and your career. And those two, I think, blend together quite nicely. With Mercury retrograde in your 11th house, you're maybe examining what is worth pursuing, what is worth investing, what is also, I think the big question here is like, what do you have to offer? What do you have to share with the world? What do you have to share with the collective? And with Mars in the 10th house, you have the energy to take action. You have the drive to succeed, right? So as you maybe ask these important questions and try to figure out what's worth investing into, what's worth committing to, things might slow down. You may have to deal with some roadblocks, some delays, some rejections potentially, but don't look at them as rejections. Look at them as redirection, right? Any rejection could just be a redirection towards something you're meant to do. So I think you are, with Mars in the 10th house and Mercury retrograde in the 11th, you are encouraged to look at your connections, look at people you know, look at guides and mentors and gurus, and figure out who you resonate with the most and figure out some kind of plan of attack and then take action, right? Mars in the 10th house is pretty much good for making strides, but it is there together with Saturn. So it's more like long-term progress. It's more about the marathon, not like a short race. So a lot of professional focus, but I think there's also a need to be patient. There's a need to be thorough. There's a need to be committed, and do not give up, because Mars and Saturn together could be a good time to commit to something that will eventually pan out, even if it's frustrating in the moment. If you want to know more, if you have any questions about your chart, if you want to know what's coming up for you, book a reading with me at anastasiadoesastrology.com and let me know how this resonates as well. Next, we have the lovely Cancer rising. If you are a Cancer rising, Mars is entering your 9th house between March 22nd and April 30th. And most of this time, Mercury will also be retrograde in your 10th house. So we're looking at the house of education, travel, writing, publishing, legal matters, and the house of career. And I think with Mercury retrograde, you're asking yourself what is worth pursuing, what is worth fighting for. 10th house in Aries, you are very much, you have that potential to be the fighter for something, be that actually a fighter when you're fighting in the ring, or being a fighter for someone else, for society, for community, or just in general, you know, like what is worth your energy with Mercury being retrograde in the 10th house. There might be some professional matters that you are needing to address, and even maybe some kind of education you need to get, right? With Mars in the 9th house, Mercury retrograde in the 10th. I think with Mercury retrograde, you're looking at your career and you're being like, okay, I need to study this. I need to study that. I need to reach out to this mentor. I need to talk to them. I need to re-edit this paper. I need to talk to my teacher. So Mars in the 9th is actually a really good time to get serious about education. Be ready for things to be slow. Don't expect them to be fast. Mars is hanging out with Saturn, right? So there is very much that like one step at a time, one step forward, 2 steps back. It's a marathon. It's not like a short race type energy here. But being serious, taking serious action that involves travel, that involves writing, editing any of your work, submitting documents, applying for visas, and being very thoughtful, very kind of determined, very patient with this is required here. Watch out for fighting, watch out for like ideological debates, because Mars in the 9th house can fire you up, make you feel like you know everything and you're correct about everything, while in reality maybe you're not. So you kind of have to be very patient, not only with yourself and with the legal system, for example, but also with other people. If you want to know more, book a reading with me at anastasiadoesastrology.com. I can look at your natal chart, I can look at your relationship, I can look at your face, whatever you want me to do. I don't read faces, I'm just saying it's a joke. I can look at your face when we're talking. And let me know how this resonates if you are a Cancer rising. Next, if you are a Leo rising, Mars is entering your 8th house. And here we're looking at the house of money, debts, taxes, shared resources, agreements with other people. Mars will be ruling Mercury retrograde in your 9th house. So you are looking at, with Mercury retrograde, you are addressing some kind of questions that involve education, travel, writing, publishing, legal matters, faith, religion. So with Mars in the 8th, you are somehow maybe handling financial matters, right? Like Mars in the 8th house could be the time when you're like, okay, I need to finish paying off my debt, or I need to take care of my student loans, or I need to kind of, you know, talk to my accountant, get my taxes done. A lot of it could also be connected to your future goals, future plans with Mercury retrograde in the 9th house. Maybe there are future plans that involve travel. Maybe there are plans that involve moving, and you really need to be like kind of proactive about making things happen, making the business happen, making the move happen, moving in with your significant other, right? Addressing, definitely, I think like some kind of, you know, like a lot of action in the 8th house with Mars here, talking to other people, looking for clients, applying for loans, paying off debts, scheduling your appointment with your accountant. Just watch out that you don't get involved in battles surrounding money, and be ready for things to move slowly. Doesn't mean that it's impossible for you to figure things out, but there may be some delays. There may be some frustrations around this time because Mars will be coming together with Saturn, and things may kind of move slower than you would like. So especially when it comes to, like, let's say starting a business with somebody else. or getting approved for a mortgage or getting approved for an apartment that you're moving into. Just breathe and make sure to take it slow. And let me know if this resonates. If you want to book a reading with me, check out my website, anastasiadoesastrology.com. If you are Virgo rising, Mars is entering your 7th house while Mercury is retrograding in your 8th house. So, right? Yeah. 7th house, Pisces, 8th house, Aries. So with Mercury retrograding in the 8th house, there is a need to examine your contracts, your agreements, examine fairness in relationships. You're maybe having some kind of conversations with your partner, with your clients, with your business associates about fairness, about compensation, about taxes and resources, and maybe even like, figuring out some kind of legal matters, incorporating whatever it might be. And with Mars in the 7th house, you get the energy needed to solve those conflicts or those misunderstandings or deal with those kind of situations. This could also be the period of time when you feel very driven to work with other people, to collaborate with other people, to find new clients, to maybe rewrite or write some kind of agreement when it comes to your business. Romantic developments are likely. Venus is in your 7th house until April 5th. Now Mars is here, so maybe you're dating more. Maybe you are moving in with your partner. Maybe you're getting engaged. There's a lot of kind of focus, I think, on commitments and agreements and even potentially financial matters in relationships with the eclipse in Libra in your 2nd house, and needing to figure things out, needing to come to an agreement, needing to talk about certain things. So do not shy away from important conversations, but make sure you're not being too aggressive in your approach. Let me know how this resonates, and if you want to know more, book a reading with me at anastasiadoesastrology.com. Next, we have the beautiful Libra rising. Mars is entering your 6th house. Mars is in its joy in the 6th house, and Mars will be in charge of Mercury retrograde in your 7th house. So we're connecting 6th house and 7th house together. They don't have to be connected, but there is potential of unity between the two. Mercury retrograding in your 7th house could suggest that you are redoing some of your business work. Maybe you're dealing with some kind of documentation, applying for things, filing paperwork, signing contracts, looking for clients. You're maybe also dealing with some kind of relationship tensions, having to revisit old fights, having to figure out how to make the relationship work. And with Mars in the 6th house, the fact that Mars is in its joy in the 6th house means Mars is just happy to be in the 6th house. There's a lot to do. Means you have the energy to do things. You have the energy to address work problems. Mars will come together with Saturn on April 10th, 11th, and you may run into some roadblocks, right? So Mars together with Saturn will give you steely nerves and determination, and that ability to problem solve, ability to handle matters connected to work, health, animals, like, volunteer related to animals. Maybe something's happening with your pet. Diet, exercise. Mars will very much focus your attention on taking care of you, on handling problems. And you can never go wrong, right? Like if you're struggling in your romantic relationship, just prioritize yourself. Make sure you have your food ready, your bed, your diet, your exercise routine is organized and taken care of. Make sure you're meditating daily. So I think on one hand, there is an invitation to take better care of yourself. On the other hand, there is an invitation to work through problems with patience and maybe kindness and forgiveness, right? If anything, Mars in Pisces is very much forgiving and loving and generous and understanding. So I think instead of being like, oh, okay, this is not working out, goodbye, there might be an invitation for you to figure things out with your work partner, with your romantic partner, to come to an agreement, to come to an understanding, and use that energy that is gifted to you by Mars in the 6th house to actually compromise. I quite like this. I think this could be helpful, even if it's, let's say you're having a challenge with your spouse about like picking up your young child from kindergarten. with Mars in the sixth house, the solutions may be right around the corner. You didn't even know it could be that simple. Let me know how this resonates, and if you'd like to know more, book a reading with me at anastasiadoesastrology.com. It's never the wrong time to check in and to find out what's ahead for you. If you are a Scorpio rising, Mars is entering your fifth house while Mercury is retrograding in your sixth house. So I can see this as a question of, do you have fun in your everyday work? Do you feel inspired? Do you feel like there is something you can do, like add music or reorganize your desk, put up pictures, put up posters, declutter? Something you can do to revive that inspiration, to revive that sense of play and pleasure and joy. There might also be a sense that you have been so focused on problem solving and dealing with a lot of things and just being sort of really hardworking that you have not given enough time to romance, to joy, to creativity. So Mars in the fifth house could be very much an invitation to have more fun. It's not going to be just fun because Mars is going to be hanging out with Saturn, but I think you are kind of almost like you're required to approach fun with like, okay, let's take out our agenda. Let's, open it up. Let's put it in our calendars. Let's make sure that tomorrow we're having fun. So here it's like you are invited to be Saturnian, to be structured, to be committed when it comes to your approach to fun. And to not give up, right? Do not give up on yourself. Do not give up on a good time. Do not give up on romance and sex and pleasure. So Mars in the fifth house could encourage that. It could also make you more competitive. It could also create more battles surrounding love, pleasure, bad habits, indulgence-related habits, children. So be careful that you're not just wasting a lot of energy fighting with people in your life. Instead, try to be more directed and direct that energy towards the good things. And if you'd like to know more, if you're curious and you want to understand your natal chart better, or you want to know what's coming up for you, book a reading with me at anastasiadoesastrology.com. Next, we have the lovely Sagittarius rising. If you are a Sagittarius rising, Mars is entering your fourth house, and Mars will rule Mercury retrograde in your fifth house. So if we tie those two together, Mercury retrograde in the fifth house suggests some kind of a need to revisit your romantic relationship, a need to look at pleasure and fun, and also what is pleasure, what is fun, what is joyful for you. There may be matters related to children you are considering, or figuring, like asking questions related to children, asking questions related to love, having some exes come back into your life. And Mars in the fourth house will bring all of that back to the question of comfort and security, as well as the question of home and family, right? So if you are dealing with your child maybe struggling in school, perhaps the answer would be finding a different school. And so maybe you're moving. If you're feeling like your relationship, perhaps you're in a long distance relationship and you feel like it's not quite working out, Mars in the fourth house could once again invite you to maybe move in together, maybe expand your home, maybe even like, if you're feeling with Mercury retrograde in the fifth house, if there's a sense of like a lack of inspiration, Mars in the fourth house could invite you to create a home gym, to set up a space for painting, to have like a dance party in the home. Mars in the fourth will suggest that you're taking a lot of action in the home, but I think that action could be quite sort of fun oriented. There might also be some home renovation or some more serious topics you need to address. Maybe clean out your house as you're getting ready for sale, maybe set up a mortgage plan system. So because Mars is coming together with Saturn, it's not just fun. There's definitely an element of like serious karmic focused discussions and conversations. Let me know how this resonates, and if you want to know more, book a reading with me at anastasiadoesastrology.com. Next, we have Capricorn rising, and Mars is entering your third house while Mercury is retrograding in your fourth house, and Mercury is ruled by Mars, so the two are connected. So Mercury retrograde in the fourth eclipse in the 4th, lots of action in the house of home and family. You're moving, you're buying a property, you're selling a property, you are dealing with family, your parents, family karma, whatever it might be. And Mercury retrograde suggests some delays there, some sort of need to be patient and work through problems. And Mars in the 3rd will encourage open communication. It will encourage that you are just being as direct as possible and you're moving through difficulties as quickly as possible. It could bring a busier schedule and sort of the energy needed to handle a lot, to talk to movers, to talk to real estate agents, to pack, to sell, to go kind of do research, right? It can suggest that your mind is faster. So it's a really great time here to write. It's a really great time to travel. But like the concerning thing is, of course, Mars co-presence with Saturn. So Saturn is not the fastest, right? So we have the fast planet, the quick planet, the impatient planet, together with the opposite on some level, the planet that encourages you to be slow and steady. So I think some frustration is likely. Be careful that you're not taking out the frustration in like road rage, or you're driving too fast, or you're fighting with people at the grocery store because you're just so overwhelmed. So like, remember to breathe. Allow extra time. Just know that Saturnian co-presence with Mars at the same time as Mercury retrograde is like, things will be, your schedule is likely to be packed, but things will likely to be slow also. So the more patient you are, maybe there's also an invite there to like schedule a boxing class. Express some of that anger through like, punching a bag, or to meditate more, to do yoga, do anything that kind of calms you down and helps soothe you. Get Anastasia, that astrology candle, to help yourself as well. So yeah, that's my take on Mars in the 3rd together with Mercury retrograde. Let me know if this resonates, and if you'd like to know more, book a reading with me at anastasiadoesastrology.com. If you are an Aquarius rising, Mars is entering your 2nd house while Mercury is retrograding in the 3rd house. Mercury retrograde is important here because Mars rules this Mercury retrograde, and the two are connected. So with Mercury retrograde, you may be addressing some matters that involve siblings, neighbors. You're maybe communicating about something you haven't. You're maybe moving or changing your schedule, dealing with technology, and Mars being in the 2nd house gives you the energy needed to take action. It gives you the power to make money. It could suggest that a lot of conversations you're having are money related. It could suggest sort of a need to be determined and need to be proactive when it comes to your finances. Mars will come together with Saturn on April 10th, 5 days before, 5 days after. And there's a lot of focus on your house of finances right now. And Mars and Saturn together is potentially a slowdown. There's potentially some kind of restriction and delay. You kind of, let's say you had this great plan to start a business, or you had a great plan to open a store and start selling something, or an exam you were going to take, and then Mercury goes retrograde and Mars conjoins Saturn, and there's just a lot of delays and money needs to go somewhere else. So any roadblocks you encounter could be lessons and could suggest that perhaps you need to rethink your strategy. Perhaps you need to give yourself more time if the exam gets rescheduled so you don't run into tight deadlines. Mars in the 2nd house can definitely be suggestive of you making more money. It could also be suggestive of you spending more money, right? And Saturn is once again that sort of pressure that you've been dealing with for about a year now. These serious questions around resources, questions around values, questions around who is worth relying on versus who is not. And so Mars in the 2nd house will exacerbate some of those questions and will encourage you to figure out some answers, hopefully. Let me know if this resonates and book a reading with me if you have any important questions or you want to know what's ahead for you on my website, anastasiadoesastrology.com. Last but not least, if you are a Pisces rising, Mars is finally finishing its transit through the 12th house, which is lovely. A lot of times when Mars is in your 12th house, you may struggle with sleep. You may sort of feel a little bit overwhelmed. Maybe you're unsure how to handle stress. So it could just be more stressful. So Mars is leaving your 12th house, going into your first house, giving you more energy, giving you more initiative, more drive, to potentially make money, to potentially figure out your finances. Mercury is ruled by Mars. It will be retrograde between the 1st and 25th of April in your second house of money and values. And you are asking, how can I be better? How can I have more savings? How can I start a retirement account? How can I pay off my debts, right? And so the good news is like Mars in the first house gives you the energy to figure it out, to solve it, to go and talk to someone, to go and start that savings account. On the negative, Mars will be conjoining with Saturn, so there might be even more sort of heaviness and seriousness to your choices and your decisions. And some kind of, like inner turmoil or inner pressures or inner kind of blocks that you need to address. What is blocking you, right, from having financial abundance? What needs to be addressed, what needs to be changed? It might also be the time when you are taking slow and steady action towards building financial security, towards building a business, towards investing into something that you are quite excited about. But there may be, just beware of like pushing and speeding and being like really impatient, because April just has this very like, nope, not right now, red signal, slow down type energy. So it's good that there's more energy in your first house, but I would still encourage you to go slow and steady. If you want to know more, book a reading with me on AnastasiaDoesAstrology.com. And I hope this resonated. I hope you enjoy the rest of March, enjoy April, and I hope this eclipse season is treating everyone really well and bringing everyone just good things. I'm going to be like Oprah of astrology. You get a husband, you get a job, you get $1 million. Let me know if my Oprah well wishes come true. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.